recent conversation points. Compliance, I think, is coming higher on the agenda than it has done traditionally. It's only correct for it to be. So obviously, like everyone else over the last 2 years, from what we hear on the grapevine, HMRC has obviously had their hands very much full. So the COVID pandemic will not have escaped anyone else's attention, and obviously the government was damn busy making sure that the economy kept ticking over. What we believe to have happened is that a lot of R&D tax credit inspectors have actually been temporarily seated elsewhere in departments in HMRC. And thankfully, as the economy is now returning to normality, fingers crossed that continues to be the case, they're starting to come back. So we're hearing that the desks that once lay quiet are now being populated again by the R&D tax credit inspectors who were seated elsewhere. And we can see from government audit trails that there's also been, I believe, over 100 additional R&D tax credit inspectors that have been hired to assist. So could you perhaps talk to us a little bit about what that might mean for the R&D tax credit industry?
It's currently upwards of around 70,000 UK companies claiming R&D tax relief. So yeah, it's not surprising that HMRC have increased or expanded their team in order to process and review those claims. So yeah, going forward, I think we are expecting more of these claims to be inquired, which, you know, isn't something that we're scared of, or that any claiming companies should be scared of. All it really means is that companies need to be prepared in that eventuality, and that's, you know, whether that's record keeping or, you know, just being prepared for those claims and knowing what to expect, just in case HMRC does come back and ask further questions about their R&D tax claims.
All right, great. Yeah, I know that typically in any 1 year, I think an average HMRC tax inspector might inquire something like 40 cases. So there's a lot of cases to get through, and I know that for a lot of them, obviously, that hasn't been as possible for the last 18 months, so I imagine they've got a bit of catching up to do. But as you say, I don't think it is anything that any company should be scared of. It's a natural process. Every large company in the country gets audited regularly. This is only something natural that takes place. But some of these companies are claiming hundreds of thousands, even millions of pounds. So it's only correct that you should face some scrutiny in doing that. Otherwise, you open yourselves up to more malicious parties trying to take advantage of the scheme. So it's a good thing. I don't think it's anything that anyone should shy away from, like yourself. And I know that a lot of it is kind of being fed into by the ongoing consultation which is going on at the moment. So it's very normal for HMRC to have an active conversation with certain R&D tax credit practitioners. So we ourselves sit on the committee, which I know you take part in those meetings yourself.
So yeah, so it was announced back in the spring 21 budget, the R&D tax consultation, which closed 2nd of June. And the aim of the consultation was really just to you know, ask users of the scheme and make sure that the scheme is still fit for purpose, and whether it's appropriate for the current landscape of UK innovation and R&D. So I mean, the scheme's been running for 20 years, and large parts of the legislation have remained unchanged since then. So you can imagine, you know, it's important that the government makes sure that the scheme is accessible by the right companies, and whether the current legislation, you know, is fit for purpose, because the government has its own R&D targets that they want to hit as well. So it's important that you know, the right relief and the right incentive is there for UK companies.
Absolutely, right, fantastic. So I know that a lot of it, if not the inception was caused by, but a lot of the execution of this consultation and perhaps the direction has been informed by recent case law. So I'm particularly mindful of Haiti Engineering, which has obviously drawn a lot of attention in the R&D press, at least. I don't know if it's on the front of the Daily Mail, but certainly it's got us talking about it. Would you be able to talk a little bit about what that case is about and what the implications of it may represent?
Sure. So yeah, so Haiti Engineering, as you say, big talking point in the R&D tax world over the last year or so, and it really focuses on the ownership of R&D within a subcontractor relationship, and essentially what constitutes subcontracted R&D. So there's a difference between if a company has been subcontracted to undertake R&D, or if they've been subcontracted to undertake work and have had to undertake R&D in order to fulfill that work. So, I mean, a lot of the time, the difference between the two is fairly nuanced and open to interpretation, which is why there's large calls for there to be a lot clearer guidance on what constitutes subcontracted R&D and why this is such a big talking point in the industry at the moment. So, I mean, the one thing that the claiming companies can do is make sure that their terms of engagement, you know, really define the ownership of R&D if they are being subcontracted or using subcontractors themselves.
Okay, yeah, no, I think it's definitely going to be a talking point because obviously the nature of relationship between parties can often be complex and it's not the first thing that comes to your mind. How is this term of engagement that I'm going to draw on this subcontractor going to impact my rights to potentially claim an R&D tax credit? So obviously HMRC is mindful here of who is the party that deserves to claim in this part. Is it the person that's paying the subcontractor or is it the subcontractor themselves? So I think what this really points out is there's one aspect of an R&D claim which is using an R&D tax credit consultancy a bit like a dentist. You go once a year and you have a service carried out and you may not come back again until the year after. Now, what we are having to shift to in the industry is being proactive advisors so that actually we're going to be speaking about how to structure engagements in order to, or at least making companies aware how various different structures may impact their potential claims. So it's important to have these conversations with our clients and it's important that the industry at large is aware of this. Because much like the dentist analogy thrown out there, I'm in a good analogy mood today, I think the enquiry side, people should see that like going to the dentist. Sometimes people find going to the dentist scary. As long as you floss, as long as you brush your teeth, you've got no reason to. So I think having the right preparation and having the right R&D hygiene through the year can make a big difference to how these recent developments can actually impact your business. Because as long as you've got your record keeping in place, as long as you've structured your engagements to be cognizant of the scheme, then there's really nothing to worry about. So I think that's the main thing. There is nothing to be scared of here. People shouldn't be scared of inquiries. They should just make sure that the advice is correct that they've received in the first time and they won't have any issues and they'll continue to claim in what will hopefully be a modernised and in some ways more receptive scheme.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we want our clients to be submitting claims that they have absolute confidence in and that even in the event of an inquiry that they've got nothing to worry about. So if HMRC do come asking further questions, they know that their claim is robust and fully compliant.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you very much.